So questions, I think there's a couple of microphones flying around, not literally, that would be wrong. Lady over there.
Hello.
Did you have any qualms with the movie title of High Fidelity being set in
The question was, people over here, did I have any qualms about High Fidelity being set in America? Well, first of all, no, absolutely not, for a couple of reasons. One, when I knew it was going to be set in America, I already knew that it would be directed by Stephen Frears and starring John Cusack. And I think you're kind of a mug if you say, you know what, I'd really rather be stuck to Holloway, you know. And the people who wrote it, John was one of them, Cusack was one of them, they'd grown up in Chicago, where it was set. And they thought, you know, in a nice way, in a way that I think a lot of people do, they thought that the book was about them. And they set it in their hometown, and they moved Rob's age slightly. It was set in a slightly different period, so it was a different musical frame of reference. And it became an adaptation in the best way, I think, which was they found themselves in it, and they made something about them in a way that made the film come to life for me. The other thing, on a more practical level, I think that the music budget for the American High Fidelity was pretty much the same as the total budget for the English feeder pitch. In other words, if it had been set in London and it had been a smaller British film, there's every chance that no one could have afforded any of the music for it, which, given it was a film about music, would have been a trick miss, I think. I think it gave the film the best chance to have that kind of budget and those kinds of people involved. And I think it helped that Stephen was English. I think he understood the Englishness of the book and the dourness of it, and he stopped them getting all Hollywood on it.
Any more questions? Why am I?
Hi.
Once you decided that Slam was going to be a young adult book, did you feel hemmed in by that at all, ever?
Well, I don't know. I don't really know what that means, and I didn't know when I was writing it what it meant. All I knew was that the book would be narrated by a kid who was, he's actually 18 looking back on his 15, 16. I absolutely didn't feel hemmed in any more than you feel hemmed in when you're writing about a character who's not yourself. I think, you know, looking at a lot of my characters, they sometimes not the best at expressing themselves. Those are the kinds of people that I write about. I don't think Rob in High Fidelity was very good at that. The guy in About a Boy wasn't very good at that. The kid could express himself, but he was a kid, and so on. And so creating a character who does not maybe share your own facility for expression means that you have a limit and a discipline placed on you when you're writing. And in that way, Sam was exactly the same as all the other kids. I didn't use as many Fs as possibly I do in my own, well, not in my own living room because my kids are there, but in my own office on my own. But that's about it. I didn't feel hemmed in any other way. I think that the more, in a way, the more discipline and limit you have set on you as a writer, the easier things become. Because if you've got the whole world to write about, where do you start?
I swear a lot, right?
I do, yeah. Hi.
I was just wondering why music seems to play less of a role in Slam than, say, like High Fidelity.
The question is why music seems to play less of a role in Slam than in High Fidelity. Pretty much the same reason that I was worried about using teen language for Slam. That I think the music in High Fidelity, for the most part, is a kind of a canon, in that it's now accepted that the kind of music that Rob was selling and talking about is almost the best that rock music has to offer. And in that way, rock music has a library, like classics, and you go and draw stuff out from this library. I think with teen taste, it's remarkably fickle, and something that I tried to write about last year when the book was being written would, I think, mean nothing today. So I wanted to be really careful of that.
Will you write another book about football? Or
The question was, would I write another book about football? I can't see it. I think I had everything. I said everything I had to say in the first book, and I know lots of things have happened to football since I wrote that book, but most of them I'm not so interested in, which is the kind of money and the hype and the relentless self-promotion of football. So I think I'm better off leaving that one as it is. Hi.
You talked about what you had to remember in terms of emotions for Slam. What kind of things did you have to forget?
Well, I think that the most important thing that you have to forget when you're an adult writer writing about a kid is your own frame of reference. And there are lots of metaphors, analogies, reference points that I'd make, say, in my non-fiction, in my Believer columns, that Sam absolutely doesn't have access to. So there's that is the most important thing. And then I guess just one's vocabulary. Sam's a kind of normal 16-year-old boy. He's not, I don't think he's destined for Oxford or Cambridge. He is going to have a vocabulary that's hopefully more limited than mine. So these are the parameters you set yourself, I think.
We've got 2 more questions.
have you ever done a tape or CD or even a playlist for somebody?
Have I ever done a tape or a playlist or a CD? I would like to say that High Fidelity is purely my empathy and imagination, but I do share a lot of the traits of Rob. So yes, I used to make people tapes. I used to make girls tapes in the hope of impressing them. I think, with all due respect to where we are, a lot of the fun has gone out of that because it's so easy. I mean, I still do it. I still make CDs for people. But the thing about tapes was that you had to make them in real time. If it was a 90-minute tape, it took you at least 90 minutes. In fact, it took you about 4 hours because you kept forgetting that the next track had started, and then you go back. So the thing about that is that while you were listening, you could maybe think about the next thing, and you could make matches and marriages that came up only while the music's playing. Whereas if you do that flicky thing with the playlist, I don't think you get quite the same quality.
Last question.
Would you like Slam to become a motion picture?
Sorry?
Do you think Slam, or would you like Slam to become a movie?
Would I like it to become a movie? Well, I say shamefacedly that it has been bought by a film company, and I'm going to adapt it myself. So I would like it to become a movie. Just in case anyone from the film company's here.
Excellent. And that just leaves us to say thank you very much to the Apple Store for having us here. Thank you very much to Penguin, for me to say hello to my mum. So thank you very much to all of you for coming, and thank you very much.
So your mum goes on there?
Oh, mum's on iTunes.
Oh yeah? Different from my
And
mum.
YouTube too.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.